All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Spooky for you. And if you can't notice, I'm officially wearing my Peppermint Cow outfit. For anyone who does not know, I like to change my looks up seasonally or depending on my mood. And since it's officially winter time, then yeah, all the festivities. Today we are going to be reading some Am I the A-hole type of things from Reddit. And if you don't know what that is, then they are a collection of stories where people come and share some experiences that they've had and ask if they are the a hole or if they were kind of like in the right for their reaction and everything. Honestly, this has been some of my favorite things to watch lately, so I'm kind of excited to delve into this. And my community voted on Am I the A-hole? So in the future, I may be reacting to some of the other subreddits like Am I the Devil or anything along those lines. But for the first one we have here, this one is Am I the A-hole from Wiggity Woogity Wham. I love that. I love the username. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my mother-in-law's for dinner anymore? I don't know. We will see. I want to preface this by saying that I am on the spectrum and therefore struggle with nuanced social situations, which is why I'm reaching out to Reddit for some third party insight. My mother in law has recently moved back to our hometown after finally escaping from her ex. My husband and I are unaware of the severity of the situation because mother in law made efforts to hide it. Oh, that's always hard. I know that my husband is feeling very guilty about it, as one would. But my mother in law is doing better and has her own little apartment in town and has been working on rebuilding her life. That's great to hear. I'm always glad when people are able to escape like toxic situations. We've made efforts to support her as much as possible, but we are in a tight spot financially, so what we can do is limited. For the past few couple weeks, my mother in law has been inviting us over to her place for dinner multiple times a week. She has always loved to cook and says she's excited to get to cook for the family again. Plus, she gets to spend time with our toddler. The problem is that she has consistently told us to be there around 6 p.m., only for her not to have dinner ready until 9 p.m. or later, and she refuses any help in the kitchen. Oh, okay. This is a major issue because we wind up staying out past our daughter's bedtime. Her whole nighttime routine gets thrown off, and it makes it hard to get her down for bed. Not to mention how cranky she gets waiting on the food. Ooh, okay, I already have thoughts about this. I tried to gently talk to my mother in law about this, but she has always been critical of me and of my parenting. She thinks it's outrageous that I keep my daughter on such a strict schedule and insists that when her kids were little, they didn't have schedules. And just ate when they were hungry, fell asleep when they were tired, and it worked out just fine. I asked my husband to talk to his mom about it, but she basically told him the same thing and then went off on him about how she was just trying to help us out financially by providing a few meals for us, and how it was terrible for us to try to make her feel bad for just wanting to spend time with her family. That's not the issue here. So he dropped it, and we've been back to her place for dinner a couple more times since then, and it's still been served at 9 p.m. And she's been making passive aggressive comments about how I need to loosen up and how I can't expect the world to stick to my schedule. And my husband thinks we should just put up with it because his mom has been through so much and he feels partially responsible because he was unaware of the situation and wasn't able to protect her. But after a particularly critical phone call with her yesterday, I told my husband that I didn't want to go to her place for dinner anymore. He insisted that she's just stressed because of everything she's been through, and we need to show her some leniency. I told him that she can come over to our place for dinner every now and then, and that would be fine, but I'm not going to be held captive at her apartment anymore. We didn't really come to an agreement, though, and I'm thinking maybe I'm being too harsh on my mother in law and torturing my husband in the process. So, Reddit, am I the a hole? I have a lot of thoughts about this. So without going into too much detail, I also escaped an abusive situation. And while I can understand the mother in law wanting to kind of overcompensate on the years that she lost, and spend time with her family, she does also need to realize that a toddler's schedule is really, really important. I have a daughter who's 4.5 now, and it is so hard to get them on a schedule. And when they deviate from that schedule, it is so difficult to get anything done on time. It makes it to where they're cranky, they are moody, they don't want there's an ambulance or some kind of police outside. Rude. Anyways, they don't want to go down to sleep. They get cranky, they get moody. It throws off their whole schedule. And then, actually, following a few days of that, it throws off their schedule for a few days. And then you're just kind of like messed up on that. And so it's not just a couple of hours or a one time thing for that day, especially with a young toddler. And for the mother in law to be throwing the whole thing of, I'm sorry that you just can't have the world just revolve around you. I mean, like, neither can she. She's not being reasonable or accommodating to have dinner served at an earlier hour. Toddlers and everything, they get hungry pretty early and then they fall asleep around like 8 or 9 p.m. My daughter, she gets off of school at 3 o'clock. She likes to eat dinner immediately. Sometimes she'll snack and everything. We'll do her homework and then she'll be asleep by like 8:30 to 9:30 most of the time. So on this, especially trying to bring it up to your husband, I mean, I can understand the husband feeling so guilty about not being able to recognize the signs and helping his mother, but for the mother to be twisting and like playing on that guilt and trying to get the husband in her corner and not be a supportive father and spouse, and knowing that um it's been causing strain on the household, not just for the wife but for the toddler and everything like that, that right there is not acceptable. That's manipulative. That is not very fair to the OP here. And I honestly, my opinion in this one, not the asshole, especially since she did try to bring up her concerns and talk about how it was affecting, how, like, she even gave some alternate um solutions to it, like having the mother over at her place, like their place a few times. But no. Okay. So of course, like, if you guys want to sound off, you can go ahead and leave your judgment on any of these down in the comments and everything along those lines. But in my opinion, not the a-hole, but I do want to see what some of the comments have said. There are a lot. Oh my goodness. Um, let's see here. All right, so this one says, not the a-hole. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think, for different ways to bring up like solutions and stuff, which I mentioned. Apparently there's like one of the updates that says, I may be the a-hole because I have refused to spend time with my mother-in-law in the way that she wishes. And she is going through a difficult time right now and could be using more support and leniency from her loved ones. Okay, see, I still don't think you're the asshole right here, because yes, escaping an abusive situation is definitely a hard thing to do. And you may want to surround yourself with supportive loved ones, but kind of like throwing the mother in law's words right back at her. The world doesn't revolve around you. You are not allowed to use your trauma and your experiences to make anyone else feel uncomfortable or even like interrupt their own schedules and everything along those lines. You do not get to use your trauma to be an inconvenience or disrupt other people's lives. That's not how that works. That's not going to help you heal. That's not going to help anyone else want to help you heal. And that's just not how that would work on that end. And this is coming from someone who has had to go through extensive trauma therapy for years to even get to this point and be like, no. Like I used to do that. I used to want to surround myself with people, and I used to want to have like a support system around me, but I also was aware that just because I had a hard time and just because I was going through things does not mean I get to make anyone else have a hard time. That's not how that works. Some more comments say, not the a-hole. Child rearing theories have evolved over the decades since your mother-in-law raised free range children. Free range children, I love that. If you absolutely cannot refuse the invitation, which is not a summons, by the way, I love that too. Pack some dinner for your little one and stick to your bedtime routine so she isn't cranky and fussy. If mother in law still has a problem with it because waiting for 3 hours past a specified time is not rude at all, then you need to present a united front with your spouse that your daughter will have a structured routine. And requesting info, I guess. What does she make that requires 3 hours of prep time? That's a good thing. Like even on complicated dinner nights, like if I want to make um like roast or chili from scratch or even like pasta sauce from scratch, it takes like 2 hours tops. And that's going all out. Oh, apparently the response is it's not that she consistently cooking the whole time. She'll do some prep, take a smoke break, do a little more, take a break to play with the baby, coffee break, and then she'll do a little more cooking and be on a phone call outside, and then it's another smoke break. So apparently, this is how she always does things. And then another comment on that one is like, so she's exposing your baby to secondhand smoke also on top of everything? Definitely not the a-hole. But yeah, oh, and another comment here from two moms, three girls. Love that. I feel tortured just listening to what you have to put up with when you visit. I suggest that you and your husband get on the same page. Can you afford a couples counselor or a coach? That's a good idea. If not, you can set a boundary that you are not willing to go anymore. If your husband insists on going, he can go by himself. Yeah. If taking your child, it's all on him. I agree it's not all good for your daughter to be so disrupted, but I bet a few dinners by himself with his mom and your daughter might make him come around. It is outrageous that he isn't sticking up for you when his mom is critical. See, that's a good input there too. That I don't want to say like every single time, but in my experience, because I am a single mom and I have a daughter who's a toddler. With her dad, it was one of those instances where I did everything. Like her dad's mom was always very critical, very judgmental. Anytime like I would even say I don't want her to have candy before dinner, and that was even getting judgment and everything along those lines. So it was very difficult to not have a partner, especially like the father of my child, not stand up for me when I'm trying to do what is best for us as a family and my daughter. Um, so I kind of relate to her on that one where it is so hard to be around someone who is overly critical or being with someone who doesn't stick up for you, and you kind of feel like you're fighting like walls on all sides. You kind of feel alone, and it makes you feel like you're going crazy because then you're listening to everyone saying that you're overreacting and everything along those lines, but that's really not the case. So if he does want to go, then that's absolutely fine on him. I agree that a counselor would be beneficial on this end because he's obviously going through some guilt and everything along those lines. And I think if he is able to speak with someone professional on that end, that could be beneficial so he can kind of get some outside perspective. And then also if he does want to go to the mothers, especially since this is more than like a couple of times a week, so not even just like once a month type of thing, then he can see how difficult it would be to handle the toddler who's getting cranky and tired because her schedule is disrupted and is hungry because they're waiting 3 or so hours for food. So I think he'll get some outside perspective on that end if he's the one that handles it for a little bit. But I do agree, stand firm on this. And definitely not the a-hole on my end. From what I was reading too, it looks like Reddit has designated this person not the a-hole as well, so that is nice. Let's see here. Second story. Okay, I want to read this one just because the title got me. This one is from Anybody Dazzling 9703. Am I the a-hole for calling my dad's wife illiterate because I suspect that she is? I don't care if you suspect if someone's illiterate or not. You don't need to insult them, but let's see what's going on. My 26 female, dad, 50 male, has been with his partner, Anne, 55 female, for about 15 years. She had a really sad and rough upbringing, drug addict parents, foster care, didn't graduate high school, and we've never really gotten along. I kind of like. I'm gonna save thoughts for after I read. My dad recently had a back injury and told me that he was on paid medical leave for a month. But I learned from my grandma that he actually only took 2 weeks off using his remaining sick days and PTO. And he went back to work once the time ran out, despite the fact that he was still having severe back pain. Ooh. I went to visit him right after my grandma told me and confronted him about lying, to which he said he didn't tell us because Anne was handling it and working on his FMLA paperwork. That right there is just like a pain, a whole pain to fill out. As we were talking, she came out and told me to leave it alone and said something like, "You're not the only one who knows how to do this stuff. I promise I've been filling out forms since before you were born." It's a known suspicion on my dad's side of the family that she's functionally illiterate, but no one has ever talked about it when he's around. I feel like we're missing a little bit of information right there. I kind of would like a little bit more context, but let's see. Um, Her Facebook posts and texts never make sense and read like they're being spelled out by someone who is learning how to sound out letters. For existence, our, like OUR, is always spelled R, like ARE. Great is grat, GRAT, etc. I've seen that she pretty much exclusively uses the voice typing feature and has Siri read all her texts. When he was a teenager, my brother got in a huge trouble with our grandma because one year on Anne's birthday, our dad got her a card and my brother asked her to read it out loud, so she understandably called him an a-hole. Huh. We're not close, so I obviously don't know whether she's actually illiterate. I checked in with them yesterday, 2 weeks after Anne told me to leave it alone, and asked how the FMLA paperwork was going. He said he's feeling better, so he's just going to keep working. But he was walking fully hunched over last time I saw him. I asked my dad to put Anne on the phone so she could tell me what was going on. Anne said that this wasn't my business, but if we were really concerned, we would just give him money to support him so he could stay home. Oh, that's rude. I honestly blew up after that and said, "It should not take you a month to fill out a few forms. You know you're effing illiterate, so just let me do the paperwork." They hung up after that. My dad hasn't talked to me since. I feel bad for using her struggles with an insult because I know that it's probably a huge insecurity. But the fact that she's not taking this seriously is blood boiling. I feel like the bluntness was warranted, but I still feel bad. Am I the a-hole? TLDR. I called my dad's partner illiterate because she won't let me help fill out his FMLA paperwork following a back injury. See, on this one, I kind of feel like all parties involved are the a-hole because, one, if they've been together for 15 years and just immediately how you were describing her on this was a little bit judgmental. Yes, coming from like a hard background and everything along those lines, and especially if they're older, they have time to learn to read, write, and everything along those lines and try to better themselves. But I can kind of see where she would be defensive, especially if it sounded like when you guys were younger, the brother had gone out of his way to try to embarrass her in front of family and everything like that. So I can kind of see why she would be a bit defensive, especially if it's no, like, if it's not really hidden that everyone in the family thinks she's illiterate, or, even just like kind of reading this post, it kind of seems like you guys don't really hide the fact that you think she's illiterate, or maybe even like even if it's not intentional, you could unintentionally just kind of treat her like she's stupid. Um, so I could kind of see where she might be defensive there. But her comment at the end where she was saying like, if you really care, you just give us money so he doesn't have to work. That right there is an a-hole move. I can see how that would definitely be insulting and trigger an argument and everything like that. So I personally probably would have just been angry at that too. Um, Especially like if you really care for your dad and are worried that he is pretty in pain and just needs to continue working after this, and this is just delaying all of that. I can understand. I can definitely understand, but I think all parties in this are a bit on the a-hole side. If she is one that does like to use the talk to text feature, or even doesn't really reread her things, it could be a thing where she may not even really be illiterate. It could be possibly like losing eyesight, or just there's things like dyslexia to where you could look at a word. I have this. um I struggle with dyslexia so often where words kind of like flip backwards and upside down for me. So I will look at a word and it'll look wrong, but then it'll be correct, or I'll look at a word that's obviously incorrect and it'll look correct to me. So half the time, like my friend Pixie, we all play like try to decipher what Spooky's saying, and I'm like, come on, that one was easy. Some of them are easy, some of them are just so wonky, but it doesn't mean I'm illiterate. It doesn't mean anything along those lines. I'm actually very well spoken most of the time, and I love reading, writing, and everything like that. It's just sometimes words like to troll me, is what I affectionately call it. But no, on this end, I think all parties involved, maybe excluding your dad. No, even the dad, for like cutting contact with you a bit after the whole blow up. Um, yeah, and he could have also like taken the time and filled out his own paperwork if he was concerned about it. But I don't know. I think everyone involved in this is a little bit of an a-hole on that side, but I do want to see some of the comments. So let's see here. Oh, this top comment. Why doesn't your dad fill out his own forms? See, that's another thing I was wondering. Um, let's see here. It doesn't look like. Oh wait, OP did respond. It says, "I know how simple it is, which is why I'm upset that they won't just do it. She shouldn't be responsible for it all, but she's the one who's taking responsibility whenever I asked. As mentioned in my post, I was originally asking him for updates about it until she came in and let me know she was handling it. Obviously, it'd be much easier if he just handled it on his own." It doesn't really explain there why the dad's not filling out his own paperwork, but yeah. Oh, this person brings up a good point. It's like it may not be because Anne's illiterate, it may be because something else happened and they're keeping quiet about it. Possibly. Um, let me see here. No one's really designated from what I'm seeing. Oh wait, no, there are a couple that says you are the a-hole. I don't see why your dad can't fill out his own forms, to be honest, or why the two you seem to believe it's Anne's responsibility to do this for him. If he'd rather work than sit down and fill out a form, that's his choice to make. If you suspect Anne needs help, you can actually easily offer help without insulting her. See, that's a good point. It just seems like immediately, even if it's not intentional, just when you spend so long thinking that someone's illiterate, or like your whole family goes out of the way to try to make little jabs and comments about them being illiterate, or not like, up to par on some things, then it could be easy to get defensive and everything like that. And then you can easily just have that thought, like subconsciously, make you just kind of talk down to the person, whether you mean to or not. I'm not saying like this person really meant to, but just how they describe their stepmother, or Anne, um how they described Anne was kind of already just kind of snide. It just really felt snide on that end. So um overall, I think everyone's a little bit of an a-hole in this situation. So Yeah. Let me know what you guys think down below. I would love to see if you guys think I'm right, wrong, your thoughts on that story. But let's take a look. I think we have enough time for one more story, and I just want to see here. There's so many good ones that keep like pulling my attention. Um, this one sounds interesting. It says, "Am I the a-hole for telling a young adult to sit down in a nice restaurant?" Hmm. Oh, this one's locked. Locked post, no new comments can be posted. Okay. So this one is from Exor. I'm a dreamer. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. It says, "My wife and I were out to dinner at a nice restaurant. Not like suit and tie nice, but not blue jeans and t-shirt casual either. At the table beside us was a younger couple, if I had to guess, late teens to early 20s. The girl kept standing up. I'm sure it's a nervous thing or something like that, but she would literally stand at our table kind of lording over us while talking to her boyfriend. She even did it while she was eating. My wife was clearly annoyed by it, and I decided I had enough, and I said to her, if you're going to go to an adult restaurant, you need to sit down and act like an adult." Ooh, that's rude. The boyfriend mouthed something that I completely ignored, but the girl sat her aide down, and then they left. See, like, in that manner, like, if that's how you spoke to her, that's definitely rude. You could have nicely said or brought it to their attention, like, "Hey, um, I don't know what's going on, but if you could sit down and, like, stay seated or, like, at least stop standing up every couple minutes, that would be wonderful." At the same time, you don't know if this is a medical condition. People have tics, they have OCD things that they can't really, they can't. What are you doing? Oh. Pixie interlude. But no, there's people who have tics. They have like OCD. They stand up randomly, or they'll like I glitch randomly. Even Pixie right here is just smiling at me and nodding. But no, if that's how you spoke to them, say like if you're going to an adult restaurant, you can sit your ass down. That's not okay. No wonder they like left, especially if it could possibly be a medical thing. It could be OCD thing. You don't know their situation. You don't know, it could have been something she really had no control over. um so if that's really how you spoke with her, then the one in like being childish in this is not the other lady. So I think you're the a-hole in this matter. Top comment on this one says, "In that manner, yes, it was rude." I would have just led with, "Would you mind please sitting down or not hovering over our table so that we can enjoy our space without being crowded?" See, that one would be a good one. Also, like in fancy restaurants, a lot of the tables are put close together, so she may not have intentionally like been hoarding or like lording over your tables. So it sounds like they were doing the best that they could to try to enjoy a nice dinner. Like she kept doing it in the middle of talking and like eating and stuff. So it seemed like it was something that she could not really handle or control on that end. Some of these say not the a-hole. This sounds like people talking on speakerphone in public. If they don't have manners, then maybe they deserve to be admonished publicly. But see, it doesn't seem like a manners thing. So on this, like on a few of these, it looks like mostly they're saying like not the a-hole, but in my opinion, like this one says, "You're the a-hole for how you said it, not what you said. You could very easily have said, 'Hey, very distressing and annoying to have you standing up so frequently. Can you please stop?' Rather than going straight to insults about being an adult." That's what got me too. You don't know the situation, you don't know why they kept having to do that, and you don't know like what was the cause or anything like that. And it could have just been a couple who was trying to go enjoy a nice dinner. And if she has like a medical condition or some kind of thing to where she frequently stands up or can't control the impulse to do the standing, and you immediately just went to insults for the first thing you said to them, then yeah, you're the a-hole on that. But aside from that, I think that's all the stories I'm gonna read today. Pixie's over here looking like she has some tea that she wants to tell me, so I'm gonna hop off this and do another one of these readings maybe later. But yeah, if you guys could like, subscribe, comment down below if you think any of these guys were the a-hole, not the a-hole. If you disagree with me, let me know why. I would love to see that. But yeah, subscribe. Bye. You want to say toodles?
Toodles!
Toodles!